You carried messages for them.
I admit it. I confess. Tear up the planks.
In case it wasn't obvious, as a goth girly, horror is a comfort for me. Whether it be jump scares, psychological horror, gothic horror, I love all of it. This includes, of course, one of the godfathers of horror, Edgar Allan Poe. Now, I am by no means putting this man up on any type of pedestal. As a human being, he was extremely disturbed, and I don't condone anything he did. However, his immense contribution to literature, specifically horror, is irrefutable. The macabre ambiance in all of his stories causing an almost physical discomfort while reading in ways that very few can. While he had a varied literary career, penning over 100 works, he has a few standouts. Cask of the Red Death, The Raven, The Telltale Heart, all taking on lives of their own, even being referenced in pop culture.
Under the floorboard!
One medium that his works never really broke into was video games. I mean, there was a whole bunch of cheap hidden object games, but that's really it. Okay, maybe not cheap, but definitely games you'd find in the PC section at Walmart. Well, except one. Developed by Inkscape and released in 1995, The Dark Eye is a point-and-click adventure game that not only retells some of his tales, but captures the macabre atmosphere perfectly, and in one of the most unique ways, stop motion. This choice was what made the game stand out to me. Stop motion FMVs made it feel so eerie, even promoting a feeling of unease just looking at screenshots. While it was released in 1995, The Dark Eye, while not impossible to play, hasn't been a plug-and-play game. However, in January 2026, a publisher named G Media, who has apparently acquired the rights to the game, released it on Steam as Edgar Allan Poe's Interactive Horror 1995 edition, the title having to be changed due to trademark issues. Although, I do think they could have picked something a little bit better. Also, I'm not saying all of that again, so we'll just call it by its original title. And calling it by its original title works here. For better or for worse, this is the original game running in a virtual machine. And while some people call this a con, it's great from a preservation standpoint. The game is unaltered, the only change being the Steam title. However, that does introduce some issues. Multiple times you can soft lock the game. I had to start over about 3 times before I pulled up a walkthrough to make sure that I wouldn't soft lock. Even then, I still got soft locked at least once. The game will not be everyone's cup of tea, not even being most people's. However, I do believe any fan of Poe's writings or horror in general should experience it. So, let's do that. Come with me and let us dive into the nightmare that is The Dark Eye. Just be mindful of the floorboards. The Dark Eye is an interactive retelling of 5 of Poe's works, allowing you to play through the Cask of Amontillado, Berenice, and the Telltale Heart as both the killer and victim. The 4th and 5th work, Cask of the Red Death and Annabelle Lee, you can't play through. However, it is read to you by another literary legend, William S. Burroughs.
A deep blood color. In the corridors that followed the suite, there stood, opposite to each window, a heavy tripod, bearing a brazier fire.
Other works of Poe can be found around the game as Easter eggs, such as the premature burial being found in a newspaper, and the poem To Helen found on a note. All of this framed around an original story of a man visiting his uncle.
For the wild narrative which I'm about to tell, I neither expect nor ask for belief. It would be mad to expect such a thing, in a case where my own senses reject their evidence. Yet I'm not mad, and I surely do not dream.
After being greeted by the butler, we find Uncle Edwin painting.
There you are. You haven't just come? But it's exceedingly dangerous to traverse the coast this time of day.
Happy to see us as we, for some reason, borrow his paint thinner. Uncle Edwin does warn us that the thinner he uses isn't great.
Careful. I use a special thinner. The fumes can do all sort of damage to you. A painter I knew fairly went mad from it. He scratched out his own eyes in a fit of frenzy. His own eyes!
He also tells us that our brother Henry and cousin Elise are visiting as well, causing us to head upstairs to greet them.
Cousin, you've come! Oh, we're so happy.
Oh, dear brother, delighted to see you. Please, join us.
Henry, an avid traveler, says he's home and ready to finally settle down. Shortly after, cousin Elise notes that we look a bit off as the house turns blue. Now this state is where we begin to play through Poe's works. You can technically play through them in any order, however, due to soft locking issues, I played through them in the order that most people do. This first begins with the Cask of Amontillado.
Revenge means nothing, unless the avenger makes himself known to his victim.
We look through the eyes of Montresor, a nobleman as he begins to enact his revenge against another noble, Fortunato, during carnival season. We never find out what the revenge is for specifically, however, he has apparently injured Montresor multiple times. The straw that broke the camel's back, however, was an insult. Peering at Fortunato across the water, we can see another of the game's mechanics, the soul jump. This allows you to see through the eyes of the other person. While a novel idea, it's not useful. From what I've seen, you have to play through each of the stories as both killer and victim to experience the full story with Uncle Edwin, so there's no reason to really use it. Combine that with the softlock issues, I just avoided it, and it's best that you do as well if you play. We tell one of our attendants to tell the other attendants at the house that we will be out all night and not to leave, knowing that they will do so and the house will be completely empty. Walking to the bridge, making sure to avoid any suspicion, we encounter a drunk Fortunato. Fortunato has one major vice: drinking. Montresor tells him that he's purchased a cask of Amontillado, a fine wine, but he's unsure if it's actually Amontillado.
I've bought a small cask of what passes for Amontillado, but I have my doubts.
Amontillado?
But I have my doubts.
Knowing that he wouldn't be able to resist, he insists that we take him to our vaults as we begin to try walking away.
Where?
To your vaults.
But surely your wife is looking for you.
She'll see me soon enough. Let us go.
He insists, hurrying us along. On the way, we even urge him again to go back, giving him a chance to save himself. But, of course, he refuses. Walking down into the catacombs, they pass 2 shelves of wine, having Fortunato drink from each, his coughs growing each time. Finding a spiral on the wall, Fortunato asks if Montresor's a mason, alluding to the Freemasons, and Montresor pulls out a trowel like a stone mason. Arriving at a large cavern, Fortunato runs ahead, eager to try the Amontillado. In the dark, Montresor chains him to the wall. After taunting him, he begins to seal him inside the room.
It is very damp here. One last time, let me implore you to return. No? Then I must leave you. But first...
Building his tomb brick by brick right in front of him. First, he screams. Then, he insists it has to be a cruel joke.
A good joke. An excellent joke. We'll have many laughs about it at the palazzo over some wine.
The Amontillado.
Yes. The Amontillado.
He even pleads that his wife will be looking for him, which is ironic because he's cheating on his wife.
It's getting late. My wife will be looking for me. Let us be gone.
Yes, let us be gone.
Finally, he screams once more, being sealed inside with his final thoughts being of his wife, his child, and his wealth.
For the love of God, Montessor!
Yes, for the love of God.
Walking away, Montresor mutters,
In pace requiescat.
Latin for rest in peace. Awaking from the nightmare in Uncle Edwin's house, we make our way downstairs, looking at a new painting in the studio, a portrait of Edwin's mother.
It's a portrait of my mother. She died when I was quite young. God rest her soul. I suppose you might say she resembles Elise. Something about the eye.
Uncle Edwin seems a bit concerned, however.
She's been spending far too much time with your brother.
They're family. I'm sure they're fine. Upstairs we find Henry, who tells us that he's decided to ask Elise to marry him. Yikes. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. This most likely was done to echo Poe's life, who married his own cousin, Virginia Clem. The cousin marrying wasn't an uncommon thing back then. However, her age was, along with his obsession with her. Scholars debate the nature of their marriage, some saying they had a relationship more like a brother and sister. Some say it was a traditional marriage, along with everything that encompasses one. Some scholars even say he was asexual. We'll never know. Virginia died at 24 from tuberculosis, and many people attribute this to what set Poe on his path of further mental illness and substance reliance. Many of his stories even echo this event of young women dying, as well as share his descent into madness. Some scholars even believe his poem Annabel Lee, the last poem he composed, was about her. As I mentioned previously, he was not a good person and was very disturbed. This connection is further solidified as Edwin's major objection, other than the cousin thing, is her age.
I simply won't hear of it.
Edwin, please, see reason.
She's far too young for you, for any man. Are you insane? She's your cousin, for God's sake.
What of her wishes?
Elise is confined to her room, indefinitely. And you, young man, stay clear of me.
After the exchange, the house turns blue again as we return to play through the nightmare as Fortunato. I'm not going to go over this entire nightmare again, as it plays through largely the same. The only real difference is learning what Montresor's family crest means.
This is my coat of arms.
What does it mean?
No one harms me with impunity.
Most unusual.
As well as the location of some of the dialogue. Back at Uncle Edwin's house, we enter his studio once more as he begins telling us about Henry dishonoring the family. He also issues us a warning.
I've confined Elise to her rooms. You are not to help them communicate in any way.
Heading upstairs to check on Elise, she asks us to do the exact thing that he just told us not to do.
Will you please take this note to Henry? You mustn't tell Uncle. I shall be forever grateful.
After taking the note, she asks us to play the piano as she sings. After a gasp, we look back to see blood coming from her mouth as the house turns blue.
Oh my. Blood.
This brings us to our second story, Berenice. Berenice revolves around a man named Egeus, the man we start out as. Remember how I said a lot of Poe's work echoes his own personal experience? Well, this is another one of those, as Egeus has a very obsessive outlook on life. As we play through, we also hear his internal thoughts, showing that his mind is never still nor quiet. Specifically, he suffers from monomania, an obsession with one specific object. More on that in a bit. Egeus starts out writing a letter to Dr. Reynolds, talking about his concern for his cousin Berenice. After moving around the room to help him fill in the rest of his thoughts in the letter, it seems that she's afflicted with some type of sickness that causes her to fall into trances, most likely a form of epilepsy, and that the medication is no longer working for her. Egeus also talks about his monomania, saying that his prolonged fascination with objects of no genuine interest still afflicts him from time to time. After signing the letter, Berenice knocks and enters, asking us to take a walk before checking if we are okay. However, Egeus has other plans.
It occurs to me that perhaps we should marry. Yes, I believe we should. Perhaps come November. Her eyes have grown lustrous.
This causes Berenice to fall as the maid brings her to her bedroom for her medication. Moving forward in time, we follow Egeus pacing around his room once more, ghosts of Berenice popping up throughout the entire library. Berenice soon enters, saying the wedding is soon, smiling at us as Egeus becomes fixated on something new. Teeth. Everywhere Egeus looks, all he can think about is teeth. Hearing a maid crying outside, she informs us that unfortunately, Berenice has died.
My lord, we just looked in on Berenice. I can scarce say it. She is no more.
Jumping ahead, we find Egeus sitting at his desk, looking at a book with the quote, "Those who were my friends told me by visiting the grave of my beloved, I might in some way alleviate my misery." The maid knocks, entering in a panic.
My lord, a cry in the dead of night. We went in search. Oh, my lord, her grave disturbed, sir. Her enshrouded body, bloody, yet still breathing. Oh, yes, alive. Oh, sir, look. What's this?
After the box on the desk falls, out comes Berenice's teeth, clattering on the desk. Awaking from the nightmare, we deliver the letter to Henry that Elise asked us to. Henry informs us that Uncle Edwin has become unbalanced, even refusing to call a doctor for Elise, saying that her condition is due to Henry's advances. He asks us to conspire against Uncle Edwin and take Elise away before we are interrupted by a knock at the door.
The mistress Elise is no more. She is dead.
Going to Elise's room, we find Uncle Edwin sitting at her bedside, blaming himself before Henry walks in.
Please leave me to grieve properly.
I ask only that you allow me to sit vigil, just until dawn.
Yes, it would be proper. Your brother will need light. Go fetch the lantern I was filling in my study.
We go to the studio to grab the lantern for Henry before the house turns blue. Berenice's story also remains largely unchanged. However, we do find the poem to Helen in a book on her vanity, as well as her writing to a friend named Emily. We also find out that after Elise left during his teeth fixation, she has an episode while going up the stairs, accidentally spilling over her medication. Awakening inside the coffin, Berenice bangs on the lid, pleading for someone to let her out before we hear scraping on the roof. The lid opens, Egeus looming over her with a shovel as Berenice screams out, the shovel coming down on her teeth. At Uncle Edwin's house, he's made the decision to place Elise in the vault below as our character recounts the current events.
I made my descent to the cellar, my companions with their dreadful burden just steps behind. We penetrated into the dank basement, the lantern pushing back the darkness. What I could see in the black floated before my eyes. My eyes themselves felt as though they had turned to ice, and now sat chill and spiked in my heavy skull.
Once arriving, Henry makes a request.
Dear brother, do leave the lantern. Leave her a small source of light. We'll go back in the darkness.
Leaving the lantern, we make our way back as the nightmare takes over once more. This time we enter our final story, The Telltale Heart. We never find out our character's name, so we'll just call him the young man. We start with the young man reading the paper, showing the premature burial, another of Poe's poems, before walking into his bedroom, drawing an old man's head with one eye scratched out. Walking back to the kitchen, we find the old man eating a bowl of soup as he fetches the young man one. The young man thinks to himself,
He's done me no harm. What is it? What is it about him that makes my blood run cold?
and we see that one of his eyes is different from the other. The old man heads to bed as the young man waits until midnight. Moving down the hall, he grabs a lantern and enters the old man's room.
I proceed with wisdom, with caution, with foresight. He'd have to be a very profound old man indeed to suspect that every night, just at 12, I look in on him while he sleeps.
The young man opens the lantern ever so slightly to watch him, seeing the eye he hates is closed. Now, we never find out why the young man has such a distaste for this eye, whether it held some type of secret power or he just didn't like it because it looked different. The dark eye, nor Poe's original writing, elaborates further. The next day, the young man returns to the old man at midnight again. This time, he stirs.
Did he hear? Should I go back?
The young man moves forward, the old man not being able to tell who is there due to the dark.
Who's there?
The young man thinks to himself, taking a joy in the old man's fear.
Poor old man. He's been lying awake ever since that first noise, his fears growing, trying to fancy them causeless, but he cannot, because death, stalking with his black shadow before him, has enveloped the victim.
We open the lantern as we hear his heartbeat.
My God. His heartbeat. He must be terrified.
His heart will burst. Surely it will burst.
What if a neighbor should hear it?
Afraid the neighbors might hear it, the young man suffocates him with his pillow. Heading to the kitchen, the young man gets the saw next to the stove and uses it to dismember the old man. Picking up the sacks, he places them in the floorboards, the young man proud of his work. After restarting the chapter because we accidentally placed the bag in the wrong order, soft-locking us, we hear a knock on the door. 3 policemen stand outside.
Sorry to disturb you, sir, but somebody or other heard a scream or some such. Called us up. We've got to check these things out.
What are you doing awake at this hour?
That'll do, Finlay.
Unbeknownst to them, it was the final scream of the old man before he was suffocated. Inviting them in, he explains the scream off as himself screaming out during a nightmare, saying the old man has gone to the country before he encourages them to look around. Happy with his work, he even guides them to the old man's room. Finding nothing wrong as they were about to leave, the young man invites them to stay for a moment, pride once again taking over as he thinks that he's fooled the policeman. However, the longer they stay, the situation changes drastically.
Can't they hear it? No. I'm safe. If only they'll leave. They must hear it. They must. And still, how is it they don't hear it?
Hearing a ringing in his ears, a heart beating, and convinced out of paranoia the policemen know, he confesses.
They know. They're mocking me. Villains, cruel villains. Stop! I admit it. I confess. Tear up the planks. Here. It is the beating of his hideous heart.
Awaking from the nightmare back at Uncle Edwin's house, we find Henry sitting in a room with no wall? Well, Uncle Edwin did tell us the coast is dangerous, so maybe it was the waves? Henry is convinced that Elise is alive, and Uncle Edwin forges a letter from Elise, and while we can't see it, upon Henry reading it, it tells him to meet her outside after dusk as he races outside, the time of day already here.
With a terrific crash, the full force of the sea met the cliff face, shattering the calm of the night, surely forever. Miraculously, Henry had escaped. He lay panting on the cliff edge, then rose to survey the scene of his near demise. As I watched him, I saw a second silhouette emerge from the brush behind. Henry turned and pronounced the name I dared not utter. Elise? But it was not Elise.
After witnessing Henry's death, we turn around to see Uncle Edwin, who becomes hostile towards us as the house turns blue one last time. Just like the previous two stories, the Telltale Heart plays out the same, really giving us no further clarification, having us play out the final day in the old man's life. Moving from one nightmare to another, we awake in front of a tapestry depicting the Mask of the Red Death as we hear Uncle Edwin reciting part of it. We move our way through scenes of Berenice, the Cask of Amontillado, and the Telltale Heart before breaking down a wall, entering the room with Elise in it as she kneels on the floor, her eyes gouged out.
The full import of the lantern, the madness-inducing fumes, Henry's premonitions, all these came clear to me at once. And I could feel and hear a great rending, as of a mirror breaking, roll throughout the house, growing in volume and strength. And even as I looked on, the house around us, the vault, the lantern, Elise, her bloody eyes, all shattered into 100,000 shards, shattered as did the dark depths of my very soul.
The Dark Eye is a largely forgotten game, a point-and-click overshadowed by an overabundance of the games in the genre in the 1990s. However, I have never witnessed any media that brings written works to life as faithfully as The Dark Eye does. The mix of stop-motion, claymation, early CGI, and voice acting melds together to create one of the most unnerving games I've ever played. As I stated, the game won't be for everyone. There's no gameplay to speak of, just pointing and clicking. That's not even talking about the technical issues, like the softlock states throughout each story. Hell, I almost got softlock near the end of the game, and I was lucky it didn't save during it. I, however, am extremely glad that as bare bones as it is, The Dark Eye was preserved in some way with its re-release on Steam. Let's just work on that name. As far as G Media, I don't have any information on them. They were founded in 2024 with the intention of preserving old games like this, which, if true, is an amazing goal. However, this being their first project, I can't really say how true that actually is or how successful their efforts have been. Edgar Allan Poe's Interactive Horror 1995 edition isn't the title this historical piece deserves, but without its release, I would not have been able to experience or even know about The Dark Eye, one of the few, if not the only game that can give an Edgar Allan Poe experience.
No pestilence had ever been so fatal or so hideous. Blood was its avatar and its seal. The redness of the horror of blood. There were sharp pains and sudden dizziness, and then profuse bleeding at the pores. The scarlet stains upon the body